The alarms screamed through every corridor of Station Calrix 7. Red emergency lights flashed against the white walls, making shadows dance like demons. Soldiers ran in every direction, their boots clanging on the metal floors. Some carried weapons, some carried medical supplies. All of them looked terrified. Commander Hyuk stood in the control room, his scaled hands gripping the console so hard it started to crack. He was a Valorian, tall and reptilian, with green skin that had turned pale with stress. Scars covered his face from 20 years of military service. He had fought in 3 wars and survived encounters with space pirates, raiders, and worse. But nothing had prepared him for this. "Where is it now?" he growled into his communicator. "Section 7, Commander," a panicked voice replied. "It's moving toward the residential quarters. We've evacuated everyone we could." But the transmission cut off. Then came a sound that made everyone in the control room freeze. It was a roar, deep and terrible, like thunder trapped inside a cave. The walls shook. Several computer screens cracked from the vibration alone. "That's the 3rd time this month," said Captain Suho quietly. He was human, standing near the back of the room with his arms crossed. His uniform was perfectly neat, his black hair cut short and military style. Only his eyes showed his worry. "How many casualties this time?" Commander Hyuk didn't want to answer. He pulled up the security footage on the main screen. Everyone watched as the creature appeared on camera. It was massive, standing 12 feet tall at the shoulder. Its body was covered in black scales that seemed to absorb light. 6 eyes glowed like melted copper in the darkness. Each paw had claws as long as swords. Blue energy crackled around it, making the air shimmer. The Warbeast. The Vorathax. Subject X9. It had many names, but all of them meant the same thing: death. On the screen, they watched it tear through a security checkpoint. 5 soldiers fired their weapons. The energy blasts hit its scales and bounced off harmlessly. 1 soldier got too close. The creature's tail swept out faster than anyone could follow. The soldier flew into a wall and didn't get up. 17 dead in 6 months, Commander Hyuk finally said. And that number just went up. Dr. Mirai stood by the window, watching the chaos below. She was human, like Captain Suho, though shorter and slimmer. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore a white lab coat over her uniform. While everyone else panicked, she just watched the Warbeast with quiet, thoughtful eyes. "It's not hunting," she said softly. "What?" Commander Hyuk turned to her. "Look at its movement pattern. It's not hunting, it's running." Mirai pulled up a holographic map of the station. Every time it escapes, it heads toward the outer hull, toward the docking bays. It's trying to escape, not attack. "It killed 17 people," one of the security officers shouted. "How is that not attacking?" "It kills anyone who gets in its way," Mirai corrected. "That's different. It's defending itself, not hunting prey." "There's a difference." Captain Suho walked over to stand beside her. "Mirai, I know you're trying to help, but look at that thing." He pointed at the screen where the Warbeast was smashing through another door. "We can't control it. We can't sedate it. Our telepaths go insane trying to read its mind. It's too dangerous. So what's the alternative?" Mirai asked. "Kill it?" Commander Hyuk's silence was answer enough. Mirai turned to face him. "That creature was captured from the Forbidden Zones 6 months ago. You brought it here to study its regenerative abilities, to see if it could be useful for medicine or military purposes. But no one asked what it wanted. No one asked if it was intelligent. Intelligence doesn't matter if it can't be controlled," Commander Hyuk said. His voice was tired. "But I'm responsible for 3,000 personnel on this station. I can't let one creature, no matter how magnificent, endanger them all." Another alarm sounded. This one was different. Louder. "It's reached Hangar Bay 3, the communicator crackled. "We've got it cornered. requesting permission to use lethal force. Everyone looked at Commander Hyuk. He closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his face was hard. Permission granted. Kill teams, move into position. Terminate Subject X-9, on my mark. Commander, wait. Mireille started. I'm sorry, Doctor. The decision is made. He turned back to his console. All teams, prepare to fire on my command. Use the heavy plasma cannons. We're ending this now. I was no. On the screens, they could see the kill teams moving into position around Hangar Bay 3. Massive weapons were being rolled out, the kind used to fight starships. Not living creatures. The Warbeast was trapped in the center of the hangar, surrounded by cargo containers and supply crates. Its scales were smoking from dozens of small wounds. Blue blood dripped onto the metal floor where it hissed and steamed. The creature was panting, all 6 eyes darting around, looking for escape. It roared again, but this time the sound was different. To Mireille, it sounded less like rage and more like desperation, like fear. 30 seconds to firing position, a voice reported. Mireille felt sick. She looked at her brother. Suho, please. There has to be another way. Captain Suho's face was grim. I'm sorry, sis. I really am. But Hyuk is right. That thing has killed too many people. We can't risk it anymore. 20 seconds. On another screen, a small alert popped up. A transport shuttle had just docked at Airlock 7. The monthly supply and personnel rotation. In all the chaos, no one had canceled it. 10 seconds. The Warbeast crouched low, ready to fight or flee. Energy crackled around its body in waves. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. 5 seconds. All weapons charged and ready. Fire on my mark, Commander Hyuk said, his hand hovering over the button. 3. Wait, someone shouted from the back of the control room. It was Lieutenant Day, monitoring the docking bay. Sir, we have a problem. The transport shuttle. There's a civilian aboard. A child. Everyone froze. What? Captain Suho's face went white. Lieutenant Day pulled up the docking manifest on his screen. According to this, your son, Sir Junho, age 6. He was scheduled for a family visit. The request was approved 3 weeks ago. Oh no, Suho whispered. I forgot. With everything happening, I completely forgot he was coming today. Where is he now? Mireille asked urgently. The docking bay was evacuated during the lockdown, Lieutenant Day said, typing frantically. But I'm not seeing him with any of the evacuation groups. The security systems are offline in that sector. I can't track him. Mireille's blood turned to ice. Which sector is that? Lieutenant Day checked his map. His face went even more pale. Sections 6 and 7, ma'am. The same sections the Warbeast traveled through to reach the hangar. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Captain Suho was running for the door, shouting into his communicator. All teams, find my son. 6 years old, black hair, about this tall. He's somewhere between the docking bay and hangar 3. Mireille ran after him, her heart pounding. Behind them, Commander Hyuk was barking orders, redirecting search teams, pulling up every working camera in those sections. But all the cameras in Section 7 were smashed. The Warbeast had destroyed them during its escape. And somewhere in that darkness, a small boy was wandering alone, looking for his father, completely unaware that the most dangerous creature in the galaxy was hunting through the same corridors. The station's alarms continued to scream, but now they sounded different to Mireille. Not like warnings, like screams of terror for what might be about to happen. Time was running out. Junho thought the space station was amazing. Everything was so big and shiny and full of blinking lights. He held tight to his dinosaur backpack and looked around with wide, excited eyes. The nice lady at the docking bay had told him to wait right there, but she had been gone for a really long time. Maybe she forgot about him. Dad would be here soon anyway. Dad always came when he promised. So Junho decided to explore a little bit. Just a little bit. He wouldn't go far. He walked down the corridor, his small sneakers making soft sounds on the metal floor. Red lights were flashing everywhere, which Junho thought looked cool, like a video game. He pretended he was a space explorer, discovering a new planet. His teacher back on Earth had said space stations were like little cities floating in space. This one was definitely big enough to be a city. "Hello?" He called out. His voice echoed. "Is anyone here?" No one answered. That was okay. Junho wasn't scared. Dad had told him that space stations were full of nice people who helped each other. Everyone was probably just busy working. Grown-ups were always busy. He passed a window and pressed his nose against it. Outside was space, dark and full of stars. A red sun glowed in the distance. Junho had learned about red giant stars in school. This one was called something or other. He couldn't remember the name. A loud sound made him jump. It came from somewhere ahead, deep and rumbly, like when his grandma's big dog barked, but much, much louder. Junho tilted his head, listening. Maybe the station had pets? That would be so cool. He loved animals. He followed the sound, turning down another corridor. This one was darker. Some of the lights were broken. There were scratches on the walls. Big ones. Like something with claws had been here. Junho traced one with his finger. Wow, what kind of pet made marks this big? The rumbly sound came again, closer now. And Junho heard something else too. Heavy breathing. Like something was tired or hurt. His mom was a nurse, and she had taught him that if something was hurt, you should be gentle and careful. He turned a corner and found a big broken door. Beyond it was Hangar Bay 3. Junho had seen pictures of hangars before. They were where spaceships parked. This one was huge, full of cargo boxes and weird machines. And in the middle of all those boxes, he saw it. The creature was the biggest animal Junho had ever seen. Bigger than an elephant, bigger than the whale at the aquarium. It was covered in black scales that seemed to glow with tiny lights, like it had stars on its skin. It had 6 eyes, all glowing orange-red, big paws with claws that looked sharp enough to cut through anything. A long tail that swished back and forth, and it was hurt. Junho could see blue stuff dripping from cuts on its body. But what Junho noticed most was that the creature looked sad and scared. Its 6 eyes kept moving around, looking for something. Its body was shaking. It made small sounds, almost like whimpering. "Oh," Junho whispered. "You poor thing." He should have been scared. Any adult would have run away screaming. But Junho was 6 years old, and he had grown up with his grandma's 3 big dogs, his aunt's cat, his neighbor's rabbit, and a classroom full of hamsters. To him, this was just another animal. A really, really big animal that needed help. Around the creature, Junho could see men and women hiding behind boxes. They had big guns pointed at the creature. That made Junho frown. His dad had guns like that, but Dad said you only pointed guns at bad things, like monsters or bad guys. This creature wasn't bad. It was just hurt and scared. Junho walked forward, his sneakers squeaking on the floor. High above, in the control room, Mireille had just pulled up a working camera in Hangar Bay 3. What she saw made her heart stop. Her nephew, her baby nephew, was walking straight toward the Warbeast. "No!" Captain Suho screamed when he saw the screen. He was already running. But he was 3 sections away. He would never make it in time. "Someone stop him!" Commander Hyuk shouted into his communicator. "All teams, there's a child in the hangar. Do not fire. I repeat, do not fire." But the kill teams couldn't get into the hangar without being seen by the Warbeast. If they moved, if they made any noise, the creature might attack. And it was so close to the boy. One swipe of those claws, one snap of those jaws, and Junho would be gone. Mireille made a decision. "Open a channel to the hangar. Let me talk to him." Lieutenant Day opened the communication line. Mirei's voice echoed through the hangar speakers, gentle but firm. Junho. Honey. This is Aunt Mirei. I need you to stop walking and stand very still. Okay? Can you do that for me? Junho looked up at the ceiling, confused. Aunt Mirei? Are you here? I'm watching you on the cameras, sweetie. Listen very carefully. I need you to walk backward, very slowly, toward the door you came through. But the puppy is hurt, Junho said, pointing at the warbeast. In the control room, everyone stared at the screen in shock. Puppy? Commander Hyuk repeated weakly. Junho continued walking forward. He has boo-boos. See? Blue stuff is coming out. That means he's bleeding. Mom always puts bandages on bleeding. Junho. That's not a puppy, Mirei said, trying to keep her voice calm, even though she was terrified. That's a very dangerous animal. It can hurt you. Please come back. But he won't hurt me, Junho said with the absolute confidence that only a 6-year-old could have. He's just scared. Look at his eyes. The warbeast had noticed the small human now. All 6 of its eyes focused on Junho. Its body tensed. Blue energy started crackling around it, brighter and brighter. Every soldier in the hangar aimed their weapons, fingers on triggers. One wrong move, and they would have to fire, even with the boy so close. Junho stopped about 10 feet away from the creature. He was so small, compared to it. The warbeast could have eaten him in one bite. The creature's massive head lowered, bringing its 6 glowing eyes level with the boy. Its mouth opened slightly, showing teeth as long as knives. Junho held out his hand. Palm up, the way his grandma had taught him to let dogs smell him first. Hi, puppy, he said softly. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. Are you lost too? I got lost trying to find my dad. The warbeast sniffed toward him. Its nostrils flared. The blue energy around its body started to dim just a little. You smell different, Junho continued, talking in the same gentle voice he used with all animals. But that's okay. My friend Yuki from school smells different too because she eats different food. Different is good. He took one small step forward, then another. Junho. No, Mirei whispered. But she didn't use the speakers. She couldn't. Something incredible was happening, and she was afraid to break whatever spell was forming. The warbeast lowered its head even more, until its nose was almost touching Junho's outstretched hand. The boy's hand looked so tiny against the creature's massive scaled snout. See, Junho said. You're not bad. You're just scared. It's okay to be scared. I get scared sometimes too. The creature made a sound, low and rumbling, but not aggressive. It sounded almost like a question. Junho reached into his backpack and pulled out a smashed package. I have cookies. Well, they're kind of broken now. My backpack fell when the ship was landing. But they still taste good. Want some? He opened the package and held out a handful of cookie crumbs. The warbeast looked at them. Then at Junho. Then back at the crumbs. Very carefully, so carefully, it extended one claw and took a single piece. Good puppy, Junho said, smiling. Then he remembered something his dad had taught him about training. When you meet a new dog, you teach it basic commands, so it knows your friends. Junho patted the ground. Sit. The warbeast tilted all 6 of its eyes at him, confused. Sit, Junho repeated, demonstrating by squatting down. Like this. Dogs sit. My grandma's dogs always sit when they want treats. For a long moment, nothing happened. The entire station seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, the massive creature lowered its haunches. Its body settled onto the floor in a sitting position, tail curling around its feet. Junho clapped his hands happily. Good puppy. You're so smart. In the control room, Commander Hyuk sat down hard in his chair. What just happened? He asked no one in particular. Captain Suho had stopped running. He stood in the corridor, staring at a monitor, his face showing pure shock and something that might have been pride. Dr. Mireille was already moving. "I'm going down there." "Doctor," "No, Commander," Hugh started. "That child is my nephew, and he just did something impossible," Mireille said firmly. "I'm not wasting this chance. Order your soldiers to stand down and keep their weapons lowered. No sudden moves, no loud noises. I'm going to talk to that creature properly." She was out the door before anyone could stop her. Dr. Mireille walked slowly through the hangar door, her hands raised to show she meant no harm. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might burst, but she kept her face calm. The last thing she wanted was to scare the Warbeast after Junho had done the impossible and calmed it down. Junho saw her and waved. "Aunt Mireille. Look. I made a friend. Can we keep him?" "Let's see, sweetie," Mireille said softly, moving closer one step at a time. The Warbeast's 6 eyes tracked her movement, but it didn't move from its sitting position. That alone was remarkable. In 6 months, the creature had never stayed still voluntarily. It had always been fighting, always trying to escape. Up close, the Warbeast was even more magnificent than she had imagined. Its scales weren't just black but every color of the rainbow, shifting and changing as light hit them. The blue energy that usually crackled dangerously around its body was now just a soft glow, almost peaceful. Its wounds were slowly healing as she watched. The regenerative abilities that had brought it to the station in the first place were truly incredible. But what struck Mireille most were its eyes. She had watched this creature on security footage dozens of times, always seeing rage and fear. Now, looking into those 6 glowing eyes, she saw intelligence. Clear, sharp intelligence. "Hello," she said quietly, kneeling beside Junho. "I'm sorry. We've been hurting you, haven't we?" The Warbeast made a low sound, not quite a growl, not quite a purr. Its gaze moved between Mireille and Junho, as if trying to understand why these small humans weren't attacking it. "The puppy is nice," Junho said confidently. "He just needs a bath and some bandages. And maybe a really big collar. Does he have a name?" "We called him Subject X9, Mireille admitted. "But that's not really a name, is it? That's more like a number. That's a terrible name," Junho declared with the brutal honesty of childhood. "He needs a real name. Like Max or Buddy or Creature." He looked at the creature thoughtfully. "He's really big and strong. How about Titan?" The Warbeast's head tilted, as if considering this. Then, it made a sound that was almost like agreement. Mireille pulled out her portable scanner, moving very slowly so she wouldn't startle the creature. "I'm going to check your injuries. Okay? This won't hurt. It just looks." The scanner showed what she had suspected. The wounds weren't from recent fighting. They were old. Some of them months old. Reopened, again and again. Self-inflicted wounds from throwing itself against the walls of its containment cell. "You weren't trying to hurt people," she said, understanding flooding through her. "You were trying to escape the cage." The pain. The loneliness. She looked up at the creature. "Where did you come from? Do you have family out there somewhere?" The Warbeast's eyes dimmed slightly, and it made a sound that was unmistakably sad. Junho hugged its massive leg. "It's okay. You're not alone anymore. You have us now." In the control room, Captain Suho had finally caught his breath. He watched the impossible scene on the screens, still not quite believing it. Commander Hugh stood beside him, equally stunned. "Should we send more people down there?" a security officer asked. "No," Commander Hugh said quietly. "No, I think the fewer people we have, the better. Let Dr. Mireille work. She seems to know what she's doing." "But sir, that creature killed 17 people. Because we treated it like a weapon instead of a living being," Hugh said, and there was shame in his voice. "Look at it now. It's been sitting there for 10 minutes, gentle as can be, because one child showed it kindness." Back in the hangar, Mireille was running more scans. I need to access the station's main database, she said. Junho, can you stay here and keep our friend calm? Sure. Junho sat down cross-legged next to the Warbeast and pulled out his datapad. I can show him pictures. He might like pictures. Be careful, sweetie. I will. Mireille moved to a nearby terminal and started searching through files. The Warbeast had been captured in the Forbidden Zones. That much she knew. But where exactly? And how? She found the capture report, and her blood ran cold as she read it. The creature hadn't been found in the wild. It had been taken from a destroyed Kralith slave ship. The Kralith were pirates and slavers, some of the worst in the galaxy. They captured creatures and people from all over, using them for fighting rings or as weapons. She dug deeper. According to Coalition intelligence, the Kralith had raided a planet called Vorax Prime 20 years ago. They had captured multiple juveniles of the species. This one, Subject X9, had been the only survivor when Coalition forces destroyed the slave ship. You were a slave, Mireille whispered. They took you as a baby, hurt you, trained you to fight, and then we captured you and locked you in another cage. She kept reading. The intelligence reports mentioned that the Warbeast species was highly social. They lived in packs, hunted together, raised their young communally. Taking one away from its pack was like taking a human child and raising it completely alone. You've been alone for 20 years, she said, turning back to look at the creature. No wonder you were so angry. So scared. The Warbeast looked at her with its 6 eyes, and Mireille felt tears in her own. How much suffering had this beautiful creature endured? She returned to Junho's side. The boy was showing the Warbeast pictures of Earth animals on his datapad. That's a dog, Junho was explaining. They're kind of like you, but much smaller. And that's a cat. Cats are grumpy sometimes, but they're soft. Oh, and that's a horse. My friend Hana has a horse named Cookie. The Warbeast was actually paying attention, its eyes tracking from image to image with clear interest. Mireille sat down with them. I found out about you, she told the creature. I know where you came from. I know what happened to you. And I'm sorry. We should have asked. We should have tried to understand. End quote. Unquote. I'm Santed of on the Manderwhy. End quote. She pulled up a map of the galaxy on her datapad. This is Vorax Prime, your home planet. The Kralith attacked it 20 years ago. They took you and others of your kind. The Warbeast's entire body went rigid. Its energy field brightened suddenly. But then Junho reached up and patted its leg. It's okay, Titan. Those bad guys can't hurt you anymore. You're safe here. The creature's energy dimmed again. It leaned down and gently pressed its snout against Junho's head, careful not to hurt the small boy. According to these reports, Mireille continued, the Kralith captured 7 of your kind. You were the only one we found on that ship. But that means, she looked up at the Warbeast with sudden hope. That means there might be 6 others still out there. Your family. Your pack. The creature made a sound unlike any it had made before. Not a roar, not a growl. It was almost like a call. The kind an animal might make when looking for lost family members. Junho's eyes went wide. We have to find them. Titan needs his family. Before Mireille could respond, new alarms started blaring. Different alarms. These weren't the emergency lockdown signals. These were the invasion warnings. Commander Huke's voice came over all speakers. Code Black. Unknown vessels approaching. Multiple signatures. Military class. All personnel to battle stations. Mireille's blood turned to ice. She pulled up the tactical display. 12 ships had just emerged from hyperspace. She recognized their design immediately. Kralith vessels. In the control room, the communications officer was receiving a message. Sir, the lead ship is hailing us. Put it through, Commander Huke ordered. A harsh voice filled the station, speaking in broken Coalition standard. Calric Station. You have our property. The Vorathax specimen. Return it now, or we will destroy your station and everyone on it. Captain Suho's fists clenched. They tracked it here. They've been hunting it all this time. How long until they're in firing range? Hyuk asked. 15 minutes, sir. The commander looked at his tactical officer. Can we fight them off? Not all 12 ships, sir. We might take down 3 or 4, but we'll be destroyed. Down in the hangar, the Warbeast had heard the voice on the speakers. It recognized that voice. Its whole body started shaking. The blue energy around it grew brighter and more chaotic. It stood up. No longer calm. Starting to panic. No, it's okay, Junho said, trying to hug its leg, but the creature was too big and too scared. Don't be afraid. Mireille understood immediately. The Warbeast was terrified of the Kralith. They had tortured it for years, and now they had found it again. Junho, get behind me, she said firmly. But the boy refused to move. Titan, look at me, Junho shouted. Look at me. The creature's 6 eyes focused on the small boy. They can't take you, Junho said with absolute certainty. Mireille looked at her nephew, then at the Warbeast, then at the tactical display showing 12 warships approaching. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and had 15 minutes to decide whether to surrender a living being to slavers or watch 3,000 people die. She made her choice. Right, she said firmly. She tapped her communicator. Mireille to Commander Hyuk. I'm coming back to the control room, and I'm bringing Subject X9 with me. We have a plan. A plan? Hyuk's voice crackled with stress. What plan? The Kralith want their weapon back, Mireille said, looking at the Warbeast with new determination. Let's show them what happens when that weapon chooses its own side. Junho grinned. Are we going to fight the bad guys? Yes, sweetie, we are. She looked at the Warbeast. But we need to know. Will you fight with us? Not because we force you, but because you choose to. The Warbeast looked at Junho, at Mireille, at the soldiers hiding in the hangar, who hadn't shot it despite having every chance. It looked at the humans who had shown it the first kindness it had known in 20 years. Then it roared. But this time, it wasn't a roar of fear or rage. It was a roar of acceptance, of agreement, of war. The control room of Station Calrix 7 had never been so crowded or so tense. Officers from every department stood around the central holographic display, watching the Kralith fleet creep closer. Commander Hyuk stood at the center, his scaled face grim. Captain Suho was beside him, constantly checking his weapon even though the enemy was still in space. And in the corner, sitting calmly on the floor, was Junho, with the Warbeast lying next to him. The creature had barely fit through the door, and now it took up a quarter of the room, but it stayed calm, its massive head resting near Junho, letting the boy scratch behind what might have been its ears. Dr. Mireille stood at a secondary console, rapidly typing and pulling up files. I've been going through all the intelligence we have on the Kralith operations, she said, and I found something important. She pulled up an image on the main screen. It showed a massive Kralith ship, bigger than the others. That's the Bone Render. Their flagship. According to our intel, that's where they keep their most valuable prisoners and slaves. So? One of the tactical officers asked. So the Kralith captured 7 Vorathax 20 years ago. Subject X9. Here was just one of them. She gestured to the Warbeast. The other 6 are probably on that ship. Commander Hyuk turned to stare at her. You think they still have them alive? The Vorathax regenerate incredibly fast. They're nearly impossible to kill. Of course they're still alive. The Kralith are using them as weapons, probably in fighting rings or as guards. Mireille's voice was hard. Which means, if we can get to that ship, we can free them. That's insane, the tactical officer said. We can't fight our way through 12 ships. We don't have to fight all 12, Captain Suho said slowly, understanding dawning on his face. We only need to get to one. A small strike team on a fast ship could slip through while the station keeps the others busy. A suicide mission, Commander Hyuk said flatly. Maybe. Suho agreed. But if we do nothing, the Kralith will destroy the station anyway. They don't take no for an answer. Everyone here knows that. He looked around the room. End quote. Siksa. The 42-4. Relimes. End quote. He looked around the room. At least this way, we're fighting on our terms. And maybe, just maybe, we save those creatures. Why should we risk our lives for animals? Someone asked. Junho stood up, his small voice cutting through the room. Because it's the right thing to do. My teacher says we should always help people who are hurt. And Titan is a people, even if he looks different. The adults looked at the 6-year-old boy, then at the massive creature behind him. The Warbeast had sat up. All 6 eyes focused on the conversation, clearly following along. The boy's right, Mireille said. This creature is intelligent. It understands us. It chose to trust us. Are we really going to betray that trust? A long silence filled the room. Finally, Commander Hyuk nodded slowly. All right. We do this. Captain Suho, select your strike team. You'll take the fastest assault shuttle we have. Your mission is to board the Bone Render and free the other Vorathaks. Sir, I volunteer to go with them, Mireille said. Absolutely not. You're a scientist, not a soldier. I'm the only one here who understands Vorathak's biology. If those creatures are injured or drugged, you'll need me to help them. She crossed her arms. I'm going. Hyuk looked like he wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. Fine. But you follow orders and stay behind the soldiers. And me, Junho said. I'm going too. No. Both Suho and Mireille said at the same time. But Titan trusts me. The other puppies will trust me too. Suho knelt down in front of his son. Junho, this is going to be very dangerous. There will be fighting. Bad people with guns. I can't let you go. Junho's eyes filled with tears. But Titan needs me. The Warbeast made a low sound and gently nuzzled the boy. It looked at Suho with its 6 eyes, and somehow the captain knew what it was trying to say. It would protect the child. No matter what. This is a terrible idea, Suho muttered, but he looked at his son's determined face and sighed. Okay. But you stay with Aunt Mireille at all times, and if I say run, you run. Understand? Yes, Dad. Junho hugged him tight. We're all going to die, the tactical officer muttered. The Kralith fleet was now in firing range. Their largest ship, the Bone Render, hung in the center like a bloated spider. Commander Hyuk opened a channel. This is Commander Hyuk of Station Calrix 7 to Kralith vessel. We reject your demands. The Vorathax is a free being and will not be returned to slavery. There was a pause. Then harsh laughter came through the speakers. The Kralith ships opened up with their weapons. Energy bolts and missiles streaked toward the station. Calrix 7's shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the impacts. But the whole station shook. Return fire, Hyuk ordered. The station's weapons fired back. Space lit up with explosions and energy beams. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. While everyone's attention was on the battle, Captain Suho led his strike team to the hangar. There were 12 soldiers, all heavily armed. Dr. Mireille wore a borrowed armor vest that was too big for her. Junho clutched his backpack. And the Warbeast walked beside them, its claws clicking on the metal floor. They boarded the assault shuttle. It was cramped with the Warbeast inside, but the creature curled up as small as it could, which still wasn't very small. Everyone strapped in? Suho asked. When everyone confirmed, he nodded to the pilot. Take us out. Sino. Take us out. The shuttle launched from the hangar, immediately diving and weaving between the larger ships. Weapons fire streaked past them. One shot clipped their shields, making the whole shuttle shake. They've spotted us, the pilot yelled. 2 fighters breaking off to pursue, the Warbeast growled, its energy field brightening. Just get us to that ship, Suho ordered. The pilot was good. She dodged and spun, using debris from the battle as cover. One Kralith fighter exploded as a lucky shot from the station hit it. The other kept coming. Approaching the bone render, the pilot said. Their hangar bay is open. I can get us in, but it's going to be rough. Do it. The shuttle shot forward, diving straight at the massive Kralith ship. Weapons fire chased them. Alarms screamed. And then they were inside, scraping against the hangar walls as the pilot forced the shuttle through an opening meant for smaller ships. They crashed more than landed, sliding across the hangar floor in a shower of sparks. Before the shuttle even stopped moving, the Warbeast was at the door, roaring. The hangar was full of Kralith warriors. They were large, covered in spiky armor, carrying huge weapons. They looked at the crashed shuttle with surprise that quickly turned to anger. Then the Warbeast burst out of the shuttle, and surprise turned to fear. That's X9, one of the Kralith shouted. How did it escape its cell? The Warbeast didn't give them time to figure it out. It charged forward, faster than something that large should be able to move. Its claws tore through armor like paper. Its tail swept 3 warriors off their feet. Blue energy crackled around it, and anyone who got too close convulsed and fell. Captain Suho's team followed, laying down covering fire. Mirai, Junho, stay behind us. We need to find the holding cells. They fought their way through corridors, slick with strange fluids. The Kralith ship was a nightmare of sharp edges and dim red lighting. More warriors kept appearing, but the Warbeast was unstoppable now. It wasn't fighting in blind rage anymore. It was fighting with purpose, protecting the humans behind it. Down! One of the soldiers yelled. A massive blast came from a side corridor. The Warbeast took the hit directly, its scales absorbing most of the damage. But it stumbled. Blue blood dripped from a new wound. Titan! Junyu screamed. A huge Kralith appeared, bigger than the others, covered in scars and metals. Its voice was a grinding rasp. X9, you were always my favorite. Such spirit, such fight. Come back to your cage, the Warbeast roared in response. But this roar was different. It was recognition. This was the creature who had heard it for years. Mirai checked her scanner. The holding cells are below us. 2 levels down. 2. We need to split up, Suho decided. Half the team stays here with me. We'll keep them busy. Mirai, take 3 soldiers and Junho and find those cells. Dad, go. We'll be fine. Trust me. Mirai grabbed Junho's hand and ran, 3 soldiers following. The Warbeast started to follow, but the big Kralith attacked again, forcing it to fight. They found a service shaft and climbed down. The ship shook around them as the battle continued. Twice, they had to hide as Kralith patrols ran past. But finally, they reached a heavy door marked with warnings in multiple languages. This is it, Mirai said. The holding cells. She used her scanner to override the lock. The door opened slowly, and what they saw inside made them all stop in horror. 6 cells, each containing a Vorathax. Each creature was chained, wounded, barely conscious. They had been drugged and beaten into submission, but even in this state, they were magnificent. Oh no, Junho whispered. The puppies. One of the Vorathax opened its eyes, all 6 of them, and looked at the newcomers. It saw humans and immediately tried to attack, but the chains held it back. It's okay, Junho said, stepping forward despite Mirai trying to pull him back. We're friends. We're here to help. Titan sent us. The creature paused. Then, from above, they heard it. A roar that echoed through the whole ship. The first Warbeast, calling to its pack. All 6 Vorathax in the cells answered, their combined roar shaking the walls. Release them, Mirai ordered. Now. The chains fell away with metallic clangs that echoed through the holding cells. For a moment, the 6 Vorathax didn't move. They had been prisoners for so long that freedom seemed impossible. Their massive bodies were covered in scars and wounds, some old and healed, others fresh and bleeding blue. Then they saw Junho. The boy stood there with his arms spread wide, tears streaming down his face. "It's okay," he said in his small, brave voice. "You're safe now. The bad guys can't hurt you anymore." One of the Vorathaks, the largest one, took a step forward. Its 6 eyes glowed dangerously. It had been hurt by humans before, experimented on. Why should it trust this small one? Mireille held her breath. The soldiers raised their weapons, ready to fire if the creatures attacked, but she put her hand up to stop them. "Wait," she whispered. "Just wait." Junho pulled his backpack around and opened it. He took out his last package of cookies, even more crushed than before. "I know you're hungry. And scared. But we're friends. My friend Titan is here. He's fighting the bad guys right now. He wants you to come with us." The large Vorathak sniffed the air. Then, from somewhere above, another roar echoed through the ship. The first warbeast was calling again. This time, the sound was different. Not a challenge or a threat. It was reunion. Family. The 6 Vorathaks answered as one. Their combined roar was so powerful that cracks appeared in the walls. But it wasn't a roar of anger. It was joy. Recognition. After 20 years apart, the pack was together again. The large Vorathaks lowered its head to Junho's level, and gently, so gently, took a cookie crumb from his hand. The others followed, surrounding the boy but careful not to hurt him. They sniffed him, touched him softly with their noses, rumbling sounds of curiosity and wonder. "We need to move," one of the soldiers said urgently. "That roar will bring every Kralith on the ship." "Then let them come," Mireille said with a fierce smile. "We have 7 Vorathaks now. Let's show these slavers what happens when you hurt a pack." They moved through the ship like a storm. The Vorathaks were weak from their captivity, but fury gave them strength. Every Kralith warrior that appeared was swept aside. The creatures moved together, coordinated, protecting each other and the humans in their midst. This was how they were meant to fight. As a pack, they found Captain Suho's team pinned down in a corridor. The large, scarred Kralith commander had reinforcements, and the situation looked desperate. Then the 6 freed Vorathaks appeared from behind, trapping the Kralith between 2 forces. The first warbeast, Titan, saw his pack and made a sound of pure happiness. The 7 creatures surrounded the Kralith warriors, who suddenly looked very small and very scared. "This is for the 20 years you stole from us," Mireille said coldly. She didn't need to translate. The Kralith commander understood. The battle was brief and brutal. When it ended, the Kralith commander was dead, and the way forward was clear. "We need to leave now," Captain Suho said, checking his scanner. "The ship's reactor is becoming unstable. I think they've triggered a self-destruct." "How long?" Mireille asked. 8 minutes. Maybe less. They ran. 7 Vorathaks, 12 soldiers, 1 scientist, and 1 6-year-old boy, all racing through the corridors of a dying ship. Behind them, explosions were already starting as systems failed and overloaded. The hangar was still full of enemies. "We'll never fight through all of them in time," one soldier shouted. Junho looked up at the Vorathaks surrounding him. The creatures looked at each other. Then Titan lowered its body to the ground. Junho climbed on, gripping the scales tightly. "Come on! Everyone get on!" It was cramped and awkward. But the humans climbed onto the backs of the massive creatures. The Vorathaks stood, adjusting to the weight, and then they charged. They burst into the hangar like a stampede. Kralith warriors dove out of the way. Those who didn't were trampled or swept aside. The Vorathaks didn't stop, didn't slow down. They ran straight for the opening to space. "Wait, the shuttle," someone yelled. "No time," Suho shouted back. "We take one of theirs." They spotted a Kralith assault carrier, bigger than their shuttle, engines already running. The Vorathax jumped, clearing the distance in massive leaps, and crashed through the carrier's open loading ramp. Go, go, go! Mireille yelled at the pilot's console. She had never flown a Kralith ship before, but controls were controls. She slammed the throttle forward. The carrier shot out of the hangar just as the Bone Render's reactor went critical. The explosion was enormous, a ball of nuclear fire that expanded outward, consuming the flagship and 3 nearby escort vessels. The shockwave hit their carrier, sending it spinning. Alarms blared. The Vorathax huddled around the humans, using their bodies as shields. Metal groaned and shrieked. For a moment, Mireille thought they were going to die. Then they were through, tumbling through space but intact. "I've got control," Mireille said, fighting with the steering. "We're okay. We're all okay." Cheers filled the carrier. Junho hugged Titan's neck. "We did it. We saved everyone." Through the view screen, they could see Station Calrix 7. The remaining Kralith ships were retreating, jumping to hyperspace. Without their flagship and their commander, they had lost the will to fight. Commander Hyuk's voice came through the radio. "Assault team, report. What is your status?" Captain Suho grabbed the communicator, a huge grin on his face. "Mission successful. Commander, all team members safe. And we brought back 6 new friends." "6? You mean, we freed them all, sir. All 7 Vorathax are with us." There was a long pause. Then, Hyuk laughed, a sound of pure relief and joy. "Well done, Captain. Well done. Come home, all of you." The carrier limped back to the station. When the doors opened, the entire crew was waiting. They watched in awe as 7 magnificent Vorathax emerged, followed by tired but triumphant humans. Junho climbed down from Titan's back and ran to his father. "Dad, we were so brave, and the puppies were so brave, and Aunt Mireille flew the ship, and it was amazing." Captain Suho picked up his son and hugged him tight. "You were incredibly brave. And incredibly foolish. Don't ever scare me like that again." "But we saved them." "Yes. Yes, you did." Over the next few days, the station adjusted to its new residents. The 7 Vorathax were given a proper habitat, one with space and enrichment and choice. They could come and go as they pleased. No more cages. No more chains. Dr. Murray worked tirelessly, studying them with their permission, learning their language, understanding their culture. They were intelligent, more so than anyone had guessed. They had names for each other, stories, even something like art. The coalition sent representatives. At first, they wanted to classify the Vorathax as weapons or resources. But Mireille's research was undeniable. These were sapient beings. People. They deserved rights and freedom. Commander Hyuk spoke at the hearing. "These creatures saved this station. They fought alongside us by choice, not by force. They are not weapons. They are allies." The decision was made. The Vorathax would be recognized as a protected sapient species. Their homeworld, Vorax Prime, would be placed under coalition protection. Any remaining survivors would be found and freed. And there was more. "We owe them a debt," the coalition representative said. "They deserve to go home. To see if any of their kind still live free on their world." An expedition was organized. Dr. Mireille would lead it, with Captain Suho's team for security. The 7 Vorathax would go. Of course. It was their home, their world, their people. But Junho had one condition. "I want to come too. Someone has to introduce everyone properly." Mireille laughed. "I think that can be arranged." 3 months later, their ship entered orbit around Vorax Prime. It was a beautiful world, covered in crystal forests that glowed with inner light, oceans that shimmered in rainbow colors, mountains that touched the clouds, scanning for life signs. The science officer said. Then she gasped. "Oh my. There are thousands of them. Maybe tens of thousands." The Kralith didn't wipe them out. They're still here. The 7 Vorathaks pressed against the view screen, making sounds of joy and longing. They landed in a clearing near a large pack. The wild Vorathaks approached cautiously, ready to fight or flee. Then Junho stepped off the ship, his hand in Titan's paw. The 7 rescued Vorathaks surrounded him protectively, calling to their wild cousins in their own language. Junho walked forward, not afraid, just like in that hangar so many months ago. "Hi," he said to the massive wild creatures. "My name is Junho. These are my friends. We came to say we're sorry. Sorry for what the bad people did. Sorry for the hurt. We want to be friends now. If you'll let us." The wild Vorathaks stared at this tiny human child standing among 7 of their kind who should have been lost forever. They saw the way the 7 protected him, the way they trusted him. Slowly, the alpha of the wild pack approached. It lowered its head to Junho's level, studying him with 6 ancient, wise eyes. Junho held out his hand. "Want to be friends?" The wild Vorathax sniffed his hand. Then, in a gesture that would change history, it gently touched its nose to Junho's palm. The pack accepted them. Over the following years, the relationship between humans and Vorathax grew. Some Vorathax chose to stay on their homeworld, living free as they always had. Others, curious about the universe, chose to partner with humans on coalition ships and stations. They served as engineers, their claws surprisingly delicate for precision work. As explorers, their senses unmatched for discovering new things. As protectors, because no pirate or raider would attack a ship with a Vorathax aboard. But most importantly, they served as friends. The 7 rescued Vorathax became ambassadors, teaching others about humans, and teaching humans about Vorathax culture. They were the bridge between 2 very different species, and Titan, the first one, stayed close to Junho. As the boy grew into a teenager, the Vorathax remained his constant companion and friend. 10 years after that first meeting in the hangar, 16-year-old Junho stood on the bridge of the Coalition science vessel New Dawn. Titan stood beside him, now fully grown and healthy, scales gleaming like stars. They were approaching another system, another species that was considered dangerous and untamable. Initial contact attempts had failed. Ships had been destroyed. "Are you ready?" Dr. Mireille asked. She was the head of interspecies relations now, famous across the galaxy for her work. Junho smiled, the same fearless smile he'd had as a child. Someone just has to ask them nicely. Captain Suho, now commander of the New Dawn, clasped his son's shoulder. "Just don't take 20 years to come home this time." "I won't, Dad. I promise." As their ship moved forward toward the unknown, Junho thought about that day in the hangar. The day when fear was replaced by trust, and violence was replaced by kindness. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't weapons or technology. It was something much simpler and much more powerful. It was the belief that anything could be a friend if you treated it with respect and compassion. All it took was someone brave enough, or perhaps foolish enough, to try. Someone willing to walk up to the scariest thing in the universe and say, "Want to be friends?" End quote. End quote. End quote. End quote. End quote. And sometimes, just sometimes, that someone was a 6-year-old boy who looked at a terrifying creature and thought, "Puppy." The stars stretched out before them, full of possibilities, full of species waiting to be understood, and Junho was ready to meet them all. After all, he had learned the most important lesson of all. Everyone just needed someone to ask them to sit, to be gentle, to be kind. Everything else would follow.